2021. We are truly living in the future. We no longer have 2020 hindsight vision. I hope you guys had a safe and happy holiday season this year, and we have lots of great things to look forward to in 2021, namely 2020 being over. So today I wanted to talk to you guys about the goals I set in 2020, the ones I set before COVID was even a thing, then the ones I kind of revised as we figured out that this year was going to be different than any other year we've ever experienced, what I did to try and reach those goals, and what I'm going to do differently in 2021, as well as how that might affect this channel. While I'm talking at you guys, I'm going to show you guys how to use alcohol markers and watercolor to render this New Year's illustration of Kara, the main character from my comic 7-inch Kara, holding a beautiful and brilliant sparkler. So strap in guys, it's going to be a long vlog. So you guys will be able to find a list of all the materials that I used in this video, as well as all the markers I used, listed down in the description below. I don't expect you guys to use the exact colors or anything like that. I just keep track of those for my own records, so I thought I'd share them with y'all. I also want to point out that this one isn't a tutorial, but if you guys want to know how I made this piece, I'm more than happy to explain it in more detail over on the Paintbox, my Discord server. You'll find a link to that in the description as well. So to start, I wanted to talk about what I wanted to accomplish in 2020 before we found out about COVID. I think like so many other people, 2020 was gonna be my year. You know, many artists at the end of 2019 kind of were yeah, let's make 2020 a better year. Even if so many things are out of control, let's do the best we can. So it was definitely really difficult kind of adjusting to the COVID transition. I know a lot of people really struggled with it. I haven't lived anybody else's life, so I can't speak for anyone but myself and what I know from what friends have told me or what I've seen online on Twitter or here on YouTube. And in many ways, COVID was gentle to my family. My mom was already retired and she was receiving retirement income, so that didn't really affect her. Joseph is working for Vanderbilt, and they allow him to work remotely, and that's actually been a really seamless transition. So in many ways, COVID didn't touch us as hard or affect us as hard as it's affected many other people. But what I wanted to accomplish in 2020 was I wanted to teach as many classes as possible while in Nashville. I'd already arranged for classes with Watkins, the local art college. They've since been acquired by Belmont, so they don't even exist anymore. I had classes scheduled with the Little Art House, which was a small private, when I say art school, I mean like art classes and craft classes. And I also had classes scheduled with Plaza, the local art supply chain. And I wanted to teach as many as possible, not just for the income, which, to be frank, gig teaching art is not great income, but I wanted to teach as many classes as possible for the experience, because I've been kind of working on this goal low-key for a while of acquiring enough teaching experience that if I wanted to, I could apply to teach at a public school. I think I've touched on that in another video, how having a master's degree in art does not enable you to teach art at a public school. We were told that. I don't know if they're still telling people that, but it doesn't, at least not here in Louisiana. You actually need a degree in education. Surprise, surprise. I wish people had been honest with me about that. Or you need a year of paid, consistent experience working with children. So volunteering for your local church doesn't cut it. You got to get paid. Or you need proof of mastery. And Eric Truding, the guy I talked to at the central office, couldn't really explain what proof of mastery was, especially when he found out I was a comic artist with published books and with works and anthologies and with a master's degree. It was kind of I don't know. So what I was working on was that year of experience working with children, that year of consistent experience teaching. I've taught before. I student taught while I was at SCAD. I've taught workshops all across the country, but I kind of understand what they're getting at with the consistent teaching, so I wanted to work on that. I also wanted to finish volume 2 of 7-inch Cara, and that one is kind of a challenging one because the more I taught, the less time I had to work on Cara. I also wanted to kickstart volume 2. Although my work's been in several Kickstarter anthologies, I've never hosted a Kickstarter myself before this year. I wanted to get married, and I wanted to move back to Louisiana. I wanted to continue to work with the St. Charles Public Library System, teaching classes for all ages. I also wanted to start a private art tutoring business in St. Charles Parish, teaching people in small groups in person. And I wanted to find or create in real life art opportunities that fulfilled my needs as an artist. I'd also hoped that we could go to Kyoto for our honeymoon. I wanted to take more breaks and actually go on adventures because I'm queen of burnout. I push myself and push myself and push myself, and then I burn out, and I wonder why. And I wanted to work on finding fulfillment outside of art. So these were all my goals in January of 2020 when I was sitting down and figuring out what I wanted to do with myself and what I wanted to do with the year. So when I say COVID hit, I guess what I really mean is COVID really started to affect the lives of Americans across the U.S., not just in specific areas, in March of 2020. And I was in Louisiana because my mom was having breast cancer surgery. And I remember when COVID was announced, when they decided to do the shutdown, I was in Louisiana. I hadn't moved back yet, but I was in Louisiana. So I had to cancel my flight because I wasn't getting on a plane at that time. And I kind of was just in Louisiana for 2 weeks, not really sure what my year was going to look like, what my week was going to look like, not even sure if I was going to go back to Nashville or try to convince Joseph to hurry up and move to Louisiana. What ended up happening is Joseph made the 8+ hour drive alone to come pick me up so that we could drive back together because most of my life was in Nashville up until that point. And that week, I really thought a lot about people who are going to be struggling with loneliness and isolation due to quarantine, because that's something I struggle with as an artist who works from home. I have depression issues, and isolation like that, not getting to see or talk to people, is one of my burnout triggers and one of my depression triggers. So I was thinking a lot about people who are going to be isolated at home, isolated from their loved ones, isolated from the people they love talking to. They wouldn't be able to see them, and kind of thinking about what I could do to try and help mitigate that. I don't have a lot of money. I've been donating money throughout the year to various good causes, but I don't have like this substantial chunk of money that I could donate or give to someone to really improve their life. So I kept thinking about content, things that I could make, things that I could do that could help people feel less lonely, help people find interesting new hobbies and interesting new things to do with their time, help them maybe educate themselves or their kids at home should they decide to homeschool that year, and things that might help people feel less lonely. So in March, my goals for 2020 shifted drastically. All of the art classes that I had scheduled, all the paying work I had scheduled evaporated like that. And no one called me, no one checked in on me, like nothing. Like I didn't exist to these employers who I'd worked for before. I just ceased to exist to them. I was kind of on my own. So I kind of revised my goals for 2020, and I tried not to let that get to me too much. When you've worked enough gig jobs, you realize like people will say they value you and they'll say they really care about you and they'll say they appreciate what you have to offer. But as soon as you cease to be useful to them, you just don't exist anymore. And that used to really hurt my feelings. But sad as it is to say, I've gotten kind of used to that, and I've grown to really appreciate the people who do remember and do check in on me. So my goals for 2020 after March were I still wanted to get married. That became even more important. Joseph and I had been dating for 10 years by that point in time, and it was beyond time to get married. There were family reasons why we couldn't before, but those reasons kind of resolved themselves, especially in 2020. And actually, some of the reasons originally that had been against us getting married were really pushing for us to get married. So in a way, it kind of helped facilitate and help speed things up. One of my other goals was to move out of Nashville. I want to be very careful about how I say this because there are two people who still live in Nashville who I care about a lot. They're really dear friends of mine. I love them. I miss them. I always wish the best. They're on my mind a lot. But other than those two friends, most of our friends had already left Nashville, and I had always struggled to find my place and to find friends in Nashville. I was ready to move back to a place that I understood a little bit better, even if I didn't always agree with the rationale. I also found myself expending a lot of energy trying to make Nashville into a comic city. And I realized if I'm going to put that much energy into a place, I want it to be the place I'm from. I want to help fix the place I'm from. So that kind of made me decide I was ready to move back to Louisiana and do my part to help make Louisiana more comics and more illustration friendly, because it's not. And I have a lot of friends here who are amazing comic artists and illustrators who have struggled to find work and struggled to find even just basic respect for what they do from the people who live in the area. And instead of complaining about it, I wanted to move back here and help make it a better place. Because of March 2020, I decided that I wanted to make content that helped people feel less alone. So I wanted to create content that made people feel like they were hanging out with a friend. And maybe not every video could do that, but I wanted to start live streaming again because I know that gives people a chance to just kind of hang out and let their hair down and just chat with people and enjoy themselves. I also wanted to create content that inspired people to use their time at home to start art. You know, y'all, I'm not going to be one of those people who's like, you know, X, Y, and Z amazing thing was done during the plague. That's not me. Again, I'm Becca. I deal with anxiety. I have depression. I have ADHD. Like, it's like the doom trifecta during times like this. I've done okay, but like, I get it. But I also know there are a lot of people who maybe this is their opportunity to do that. They've always been too busy before, and now is their chance. Or people who have kids and they want to do something with their kid, and now is the chance that they can explore art a little bit more. So that's who I wanted to make it for. I'm not trying to bully or pressure anybody. Look, y'all, 2020 was a hard year. If the only way you got through this year was burritoing yourself in your blankets, eating Blisteritos, and watching Netflix, I'm proud of you. You got through 2020. This year was terrible for a lot of people. But there are also people like me who, if they're not doing something, they'll start to eat themselves alive. I know that's kind of a gross way to describe it, but like mentally they start like getting really insecure and tearing themselves up. So I wanted to make stuff that would help people distract that part of their brain and also maybe start pursuing something they've always wanted to pursue but could never justify it before. I also wanted to create content that entertained bored kids, teens, and adults. And I know that's an area where we could argue that I wasn't that successful because I make edutainment, you know, like I'm not making like scathing hot takes on whoever sinned this week. It's not my jam. I don't want to talk like that. I make very, some would argue boring, very steady content that slowly builds up on something. But I wanted there to be resources for the people who have been kind of passed up in the past. So when I say entertain, I mean edutainment. And I think I've been fairly successful with that. I also wanted to create accessible art content. And I feel like in the past 3 years, when I first started teaching with NCE until now, I've really been increasing how much accessible art content I've made. I make a lot of very step-by-step tutorials. I do those chill streams where we're just messing around with kits that you can pick up for super cheap. I've reviewed Dollar Tree and Five Below and Walmart art supplies on the regular. I make basic drawing tutorials for anybody who'd like to learn how to draw because I sincerely believe that art should be for anyone of any age. I also wanted to improve my video quality, and that's an area I'm still working on. For those of you who don't know, I record and edit on my phone, which explains a lot, but I am slowly trying to up my video quality, try new things, play around with different things, and kind of trying to find my voice as a video editor. That's always been the area I know I'm the weakest at. We used to pay somebody a lot of money to edit videos, and I do it all myself now, so yay me. But there has been some dips in quality and some sacrifices made, but we're also not spending a boatload of money to pay somebody to help edit video. I've also tried to move the channel away from being so reliant on reviews for views and share more tutorials, which hasn't worked out super great for me because my reviews and my shop with me videos and my art hauls are always the most popular thing on this channel. And I actually want to talk about that a little bit more later on, but I've been trying to move away from that because just frankly, it's not sustainable. And it also promotes this culture of like competitiveness, to be the first to buy something or the first to receive something care of and get that review out as quick as possible so that you're first in the hits, which isn't good for me. I think that might be okay for some people, like some people might thrive with that, but it's really bad for me. I don't make my best content when I'm playing that game, and I'm not on anybody's PR list, so I get everything last, and then when you live in the rural South, you really get art supplies last. So I just couldn't keep up with that, and I wanted to move away from that, and I wanted to share more of what I've learned both with my art school education and my experience working as a comic artist and working as a convention artist, and also my experience teaching art. So I wanted to also create more accessible drawing tutorials, which I've done a lot of those here on the channel. They are not popular on my channel by any means. They tend to do really, really poorly, but I think they're important and I think they're valuable, and I want to talk about those a little bit later on as well. And I also wanted to work towards creating content that only I could create. I wanted to work harder to find my unique voice. I've been on YouTube since 2016. I've seen a lot of other artists come onto YouTube. I'm not the only comic artist on here. I'm not the only comic artist with a traditional media style. I'm not the only comic artist who uses watercolor. I'm not the only convention artist on the service anymore. So I have to work harder to find what I have to bring to the channel and what makes me unique. And I do think a lot of that would be having more of a conversation with you guys, letting my hair down more, and us just talking more. And that's hard because I've also noticed my audience is skewing younger and younger and younger. And some of the things I'd like to talk about are not necessarily adult oriented, but there's something an 11-year-old is not going to be able to relate to. So it's becoming increasingly difficult for me to find my unique voice, but increasingly important because I want there to be reasons for you guys to come and hang out with me every week. And if I'm just doing art supply reviews, that might not be enough reason to come hang out every week. So what happened this year? Well, COVID basically canceled all of my teaching engagements in Nashville past February. I lost a lot of income in February and March and a lot of potential job references, as well as a lot of teaching experiences. I have tried to accommodate that by doing more live streams and by sharing more of my work freely online, but that's kind of a catch-22 situation because that's a lot of work for literally no income. Joseph and I have spent a lot of time at home due to quarantine. Nashville had a lot of issues with COVID spikes, so things were constantly just not open, which was good and bad. It was good in that there was no temptation to go out and do these things that are kind of iffy, whereas in Louisiana, they do not care. Everything's open except downtown where nothing's really open. So there you really have to have a lot more self-restraint, which is also hard because a lot of the people we see around us don't care, and they're not wearing masks, and they're not practicing social distancing, and they're having parties, and like they just don't care. So it's harder sometimes to tell yourself not to do those things when everybody else is doing them and they don't care. So working from home, both of us have been working from home. Joseph's job allowed him to work from home. He's a programmer. And he's made that transition like swimmingly. I'm sure it hasn't always been easy for him, but he never complains about it. And he's just a real trooper. And he has spent a lot of his time working on helping me get 7-inch Kara on Kickstarter and then helping me get Kara printed and out to the backers. So a lot of what went right in 2020 is because Joseph was helping me out a lot. And he's always helpful, right? But he's not one of those partners who like really wants to be invested in the YouTube side of things or really wants to be invested in the convention or art side of things. He helps me because I ask him to, not because it's like his dream to be on YouTube. So, I mean, every time he comes onto the live stream, I'm appreciative because I know it's not really his jam and he's mostly doing it because I asked him to. So what did I accomplish in 2020? Well, I successfully I successfully kickstarted volume 2 of 7-inch Kara with y'all's support. Thank you guys so much. That really meant, y'all don't even know, it really meant a lot to me. I know it was a lot of money. That's how much it costs to print it. Like printing it costs $7,500 plus just to print those books. And if I hadn't met that Kickstarter goal, I really think this year I would have walked away from YouTube. I would have walked away from art. I would have walked away from comics and just maybe walked away forever. Like, I don't know. So you guys backing that, you guys telling people about it, you guys supporting it, really, really meant a lot to me. And it helped me get through a really difficult year, just knowing that y'all believed in something that I love. I also got married. It wasn't a big wedding. It wasn't an elaborate wedding. It was a very, very small DIY wedding, but we're married. We moved to Louisiana, and that, I should have vlog about that. I have been trying to share more vlogs about my life, but not because I want this to be a lifestyle channel. I just want you guys to get to know me a little bit better and see me more as a person and not as a review bot. But we moved to Louisiana. We're still in the rental. It's a nice rental, but our landlady lets her dogs run all over the place, and one of them was abused in a past life and is very growly and bitey. So, you know, it's time to buy a house. So we're working on that. And I'm excited about that because it's going to allow me, first of all, it's going to be our forever home. We don't plan on moving after that. And we can start a family, which I'm also really excited about that because I have all this love to give and pouring it out on the internet does nothing. So it's time to either have or adopt a child and give that child all my love. Bowie is not always that appreciative of all the love I have to give. But it's also going to allow me to set up a dedicated studio space and put my stuff on the walls because my landlady A does not want us putting stuff on the walls, which I respect, but she also doesn't want us removing all her 1 bajillion pictures off the walls to hang our own stuff either, which is kind of like, oh, come on. So it's definitely time to have our own space. I am currently working with the St. Charles Parish Library System as a contractor. I am co-hosting their bi-weekly Art Squad meetup. So Art Squad is aimed at younger artists, let's say 10 to 15-ish. It's kind of loose. We're kind of evolving with what age group shows up. It's done via Zoom, and every other week we have a drawing prompt. Sometimes we have a warm-up. Sometimes we have a dedicated drawing prompt. We're working on designing the Art Squad mascot, so we're going to have a contest for that. But we're kind of letting the kids decide the pace because this isn't really meant to be a class. It's really meant to be just like a cool art hangout thing, which is something that I would have loved so much at that age. So it's really cool to be part of the change that you want to see in your community, to be able to be a positive force in other people's lives. So I really love the Art Squad. All our kids are really great. They are a true delight in my life, and they just, I feel so good after Art Squad. Like, I love encouraging them, and I love how positive they are, and I love how kind they are to each other, and I'm just like so proud of those kids. So I really love the Art Squad, and I look forward to the day we can safely meet up in person because they're all just fantastic kiddos. I finished volume 2 again with a boatload of help from Joseph. He's been such a help. Wow. Having a husband who helps out with all the parts of the comic that are not the fun parts, like copy editing and submitting the book for reviews like Kirkus and submitting the book for awards, that's such a big help, and I just wouldn't be able to do as much as I can do without his help. I was also able to create a bunch of accessible drawing tutorials, and I plan on creating more as I work with Art Squad because I generate a lot of templates and activities for Art Squad, and I can use some of that here on the channel to help inspire other young artists who don't live in this area. We also compiled Lilliputian Living, which is my 4 years to this point October inking activity, take that as you will, into a perfect bound book, and it looks so good, and it's now available in the Natto shop. So that is kind of like a bonus book. Like, that wouldn't have happened without Joseph doing a lot of work, compiling things. Like, I did all the drawing and I did all the writing, but he did all the laying out and all the organizing. He did a really good job. I am super proud of that book. And we have shipped out almost all of the Kickstarter copies of Volume 2. We're still working on fulfillment. We're using a company called ShipBob for our book fulfillment. And some things are kind of out of our hands because we're still waiting on CreateSpace for some things. And ShipBob is still inventorying other things, but we're going as fast as we can. I'm going to fulfill the postcards and the You as a Lilliputian and the Naomi and Kara or Kara and Tanner sketches and the coloring book pages and the activity book pages. I'm going to fulfill those myself, but ShipBob is handling the book side of things, which is nice because as somebody with ADHD, that could have been the hugest stumbling block of this year. So many comic artists, when they have a Kickstarter, the fulfillment part of the Kickstarter takes over their life and it takes over their home. And yeah, we had to pay ShipBob to do it. It wasn't free, but it freed up a lot of time. So if you're interested in learning more about working with ShipBob, you can reach out to me via Discord. I'm happy to talk about it. I'm not going to talk about it too much here, but I think it was a really good decision. And that was another thing that Joseph went out and researched and then told me about. I wouldn't have known about it if it wasn't for him. So I really enjoyed working on all the Kickstarter promo videos with Joseph. Like, I had so much fun going out and recording the different segments and recording the skits and planning the shots and staging the shots and creating the paper children and even doing the voiceover work. I had a lot of fun creating, and it took us a month to do it, but we created a really nice little video on a budget of Dollar Tree and my phone and just a massive amount of time. Staging shots, doing practical effects, and working together on a video was a lot of fun. I'd love to collaborate with him again on more polished videos, but I know he hates editing videos. But I'm kind of hoping if I'm picky choosy and it's a really fun topic, maybe I can get him to collaborate with me on a video or two throughout the year. It's just fun to work with somebody else on something creative that isn't comics but is comics adjacent. And it's like playing. And I really enjoyed doing that. I mean, I'm not community channel. She can do that by herself. She's amazing. I cannot do that by myself. I'm not that organized, but I had a lot of fun doing it, and it's definitely something I would love to explore more in the future. So when feasible, I've held Saturday night, and I kind of moved it over to Friday night after getting some feedback for you guys. I've held Saturday and Friday night live streams that focus on either teaching specific skills like workshop style or offering sketch requests or doing doodles or something more loose like that. And my goal for that was, I know a lot of people would like to take art classes, maybe from me, maybe from someone else, and they can't afford them. So I wanted to offer it as kind of a freemium thing. I hate saying it like that. It is basically funded by my Patreon. My patron support is the only reason I do stuff like that, but I wanted to be able to also offer it for free to other people who might be interested in doing it. Because let's be real, the YouTube money I make on an entire month of videos is about $50. Like, I do not earn enough money doing videos to cover the cost of videos by a long shot. So without Patreon, I would have stopped a while back. But these streams have been kind of hit or miss for me. When they're great, they are really great and I have a blast. But when they're poorly attended or people want to argue with me in the chat, it really wears me out and it makes me regret even doing the stream. I have attracted a few chatters who I think are well-meaning, but they want to contradict literally everything I'm saying during the stream, and that gets kind of frustrating. I mean, just put yourself in my shoes, right? Like, I'm taking the time, I want to hang out with you guys, I want to just relax and like share something I know how to do with y'all, and y'all can talk about Pokemon or your favorite anime or what's going on this week in the chat. I'm good with any of that. And instead of talking about those things, somebody wants to argue with me about what is or what is not industry standard when it comes to alcohol markers. And I apologize for using that as a specific, but that's the one that like stands out immediately right now because it happened recently. Like, it just kind of wears me out, you know? There's so much nuance to art and art supplies and how these things are handled. I don't want to spend that time arguing. I don't mind answering questions, but if you want to have your own YouTube channel where you share your knowledge, I encourage you to do that. I support it. I will even plug it if you ask. I'm not going to plug you if you don't ask, but if you ask, I am more than happy to plug you. But I don't want to use my streams to get into an argument with somebody over that, you know? It just makes it not fun anymore. And it even kind of makes me regret doing the streams. So, you know, due to a request from a homeschooling parent, I also started offering weekday afternoon streams on Mondays during December. This parent said that they enjoyed my videos, their kid likes my videos, and they would enjoy streams earlier in the day that their kid could enjoy. So I started doing the chill streams on Mondays to kind of help fulfill that, because I was like, yeah, you know what? I don't mind doing that. That's great. Sure. So the chill streams have been focusing on reviewing art kits and craft kits, and it's kind of aimed to provide a social outlet for people who might be struggling with isolation. My mom comes over, we do a kit, we talk about whether or not the kit is any good. In general, we're trying to learn something new, and we're trying to stick to the materials included in the kit or mentioned in the kit. So while attendance during those chill streams is kind of poor, it's definitely not the most popular thing while it's streaming, most of the kit reviews do see a decent second life as just regular videos. It's kind of surprising. That manga kit video I mentioned earlier is doing quite well. I'm surprised anybody wants to sit through 2 hours of me and Joseph ragging on a manga kit, but I guess y'all do. But it's fun to be able to offer something a little different from what I usually offer here on this channel. And it's really fun to be able to show my crafty side. When I was younger, I mean like a lot younger, I loved sewing, I loved embroidery, I loved weaving, I loved, beadwork, I loved making friendship bracelets, I used to make things out of felt. Like, I loved doing crafts. I used to be a cosplayer. And I gave up a lot of that to pursue comics because comics is so time consuming, and now YouTube is so time consuming. So it's really cool to be able to explore that again with you guys and just kind of let my hair down and not feel like I have to be like, okay, so one of the things about the workshops that I do on weekends is I often feel like I have to be like perfect, or people are going to point out all the flaws because people have done that in my chat. And it makes it harder for me to just like relax and be myself when the peanut gallery is throwing peanuts. But the chill streams, I don't care. It's a cheap kit. Like, if I make a mistake, whatever. So it's nice to be able to just kind of like relax and let my hair down a little bit. So one of the big issues I continue to grapple with are the drawing tutorials. I mentioned those a little bit earlier. So my goal with the drawing tutorials is I genuinely think art should be for anybody who's alive. I don't know what happens after you're dead, but if you're alive, art is for you. If you're poor, art is for you. If you got money, art is for you. And please consider spending money on artists who you appreciate if you have money. If you are young, art is for you. If you're older, art is for you. I wanted to create tutorials that can appeal to artists or art lovers at a variety of ages and inspire people to take a risk and try. Just try drawing. There's so many people I know of who would rather rely on something that was already pre-drawn for them when it is literally super easy to draw the thing they're relying on. So I wanted to create tutorials that kind of just make it more accessible. But it's kind of frustrating, it's more than kind of frustrating, it's actually very frustrating to check my analytics and see that school platforms like, I want to say like Moodle, but not Moodle, but they're platforms that schools use for remote learning. These platforms continue to link my videos. So these videos are being played for a class during a Zoom style class session. So the teacher's playing the video and the students are then watching the videos. And since the platform is restreaming my YouTube content, it only counts as one view. That's frustrating because it really screws up my analytics. I literally have no idea what people are getting from these videos, if they even enjoy these videos, if these videos are working, or if there's something I shouldn't do anymore. And these videos tank analytics-wise, and it tanks the rest of my channel. And it's been a real challenge to get teachers to actually talk to me about it. I've done vlogs about it. I've asked them to just reach out and talk to me so I can better understand what's going on, and maybe we can work together to create content that their students will enjoy. And also, monetarily, this is a black hole for me. Like, when you stream my video for your class, I only get the ad revenue from that one view. So you're tanking my analytics and you're tanking my financials. And these tutorials take time and materials and energy and knowledge to create. And it's a little bit unfair to me that you're using me to entertain your class. You're getting paid from me teaching your class. Ideally, I'd love to find a solution to this, and I'd like to collaborate with you guys. I would love to do Zoom classes with your students. I'd love to curate something and create something specifically for your students' needs and what they want to watch. And I can't do that if you don't ever reach out to me and talk to me. Mostly, I just want to hear back from the teachers who are using my content, because I thrive off of feedback and encouragement. And creating content that goes into a black hole just doesn't inspire me. Also feel like it sets a bad example for their students, because you're demonstrating that you can repurpose somebody else's content without their permission for your own needs. And that's kind of a violation of my autonomy. And this also demonstrates, it demonstrates that it's okay to treat artists with disregard and disrespect. And it also limits your students' access to professionals who might inspire their futures and be able to provide useful feedback and answer their questions. So to me, when you rehost or restream my content, you're creating just a dead end. And we don't have to have a dead end. We could collaborate to create something together that's way better than you just restreaming my content. So I feel like I worked really hard this year, but I also really struggled to reach the audience I'd hoped to reach. I'm not striving to become particularly popular. I don't really care about that, but it's definitely frustrating to put so much time into tutorials and reviews only to watch them stagnate. In December, I decided to really give it my all and lean in with as much seasonal content as possible, and I was really frustrated with the lack of improvement in views. And this led to burnout, and whenever I have burnout, I start to struggle with depression. So I decided I'm going to take a hiatus during January. There will be some videos coming up, and I do want to talk about this hiatus with you guys in a vlog a little bit more. Not to make you feel guilty or anything, but just to be honest with you guys and give you guys an idea of what to expect. But I think taking a hiatus is really going to be what's best for me. It's going to give me a chance to reevaluate the channel and my relationship to YouTube. It's no surprise that reviews tend to do best on this channel, but I feel like a strong focus on reviews particularly creates a competitive atmosphere to be first, and that's a competition I can't hope to win, or I can't even hope to actually compete in fairly, because I'm somebody with no real connections. I live in the rural South. I'm on a limited art supply budget, so it's like 3 strikes against me right there. But that said, I will continue to review products that I find interesting, inspiring, or fun. And I hope that my perspective is unique enough to attract viewers. So I really hope January will spark some necessary inspiration, or at least grant me the closure I need to step away from YouTube, because that is an option that's on the table right now. So in both 2019 and 2020, my patrons provided a major source of motivation and inspiration via their support. I've seen other niche YouTube creators, particularly those in the arts, mention that their patrons are really the only reason they continue with YouTube, and honestly, I feel the same way. It isn't so much the monetary support. I mean, I don't really earn enough from Patreon to be able to call it a living, but knowing that 50-some odd folks have my back and believe in what I'm creating has helped me power through the dark spots. And my Discord server, there are some really fantastic, encouraging, kind, wonderful people on my Discord server. And their support and encouragement has also helped me power through some of the dark spots. And it's given me ideas for videos and ideas for content and ideas for tutorials that I wouldn't have thought up on my own. I really do benefit from feedback and engagement. It allows me to focus on what you guys actually want to see, and it allows me to spend my time making that rather than spending my time guessing and not knowing. So it has been quite a year, as you guys can see. I'm actually in pretty good spirits. I've been working on managing my burnout and spending time doing other things and getting fulfillment and getting enough sunlight and enough exercise, and that does help a lot. I'm not an artist who believes in just chaining yourself to the table until I wither up and die. That's not healthy. Please don't do that. Go get some sunshine. Go get some exercise. So I'm working on finding that work-life balance. And I think for me, it's always going to be a teeter-totter, because like when we were working on volume 2, those were a lot of long days. Those were a lot of long days at a computer desk that faces a wall, not being able to see anybody or talk to anybody. When I'm creating videos for YouTube, when I was doing all that December content, those were 12-hour days every day. I mean, every day. Usually from like 1 in the afternoon to 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, spent recording and painting and editing and doing voiceovers. And it can be lonely and isolating. So finding a good balance is really important, especially as Joseph and I start having a family. When we have kids, whether we adopt or whether I give birth myself, the kids are going to be my priority. Me doing YouTube and me doing comics the way I do comics, where I share them for free as a webcomic, that's a luxury on my end that I can afford to share now, but I may not be able to share it freely forever. And that's something I'm becoming increasingly aware of as I get older. So my 2021 resolutions are, I want to continue to work on upping my video quality while reducing the number of videos I put out. That is a piece of feedback that I have taken very seriously, and while it may seem like I'm not listening, I am. I produce too many videos. No one can keep up with it. I never expected y'all to keep up with every single one, but you know, there are times where inspiration strikes and you want to produce more things, you want to do more things, and there are times where you have a time limit, like Christmas is coming up, so you want to release all the seasonal videos you've been working on. And if it takes time to paint, you may be releasing a video every day at the very end of the month, because that's when everything finally finished up and finally came together. But I am going to work on increasing the video quality and reducing the number of videos I put out. I'm kind of working back towards just 2 updates a week. I want to do more studio vlogs throughout the year and let people really get to know me. I haven't done all that many studio vlogs. Like some artists do weekly vlogs, because I think I'm kind of boring, actually. I mean, Joseph and I have routines, and we don't vary a lot from the routines. And routine is really good for me as someone with ADHD, because it gives me a set of things to expect. I know what my day looks like. I know what's expected of me. And I personally can't see how that would be interesting viewing, but I can also start to see how people might find that to be very calming to watch. So that's definitely something I want to play with more, especially when I'm working on the Kickstarter fulfillment. I've actually been recording and sharing vlogs of the Kickstarter fulfillment on my Kickstarter vlog, which is only available to patrons and the people who back the Kickstarter. But it would be kind of fun to share more of that here publicly as well. Maybe not for the Kickstarter, because that was part of their rewards, were these exclusive vlogs. But definitely it would be fun to share fulfillment for other projects that I'm working on. I mean, I don't have any conventions. It's COVID, y'all. So it's not like I can share my con prep vlogs, but I'm sure I'll think of something, as things always seem to come up. I'm always full of ideas as time progresses. On that note, though, I definitely want to make more comics. The more YouTube videos I make, it seems like the fewer comics I make. And I do share a lot of comic process with you guys when I'm working on comics. So I'm hoping pulling away from doing as many videos means I can make more comics. So I really want to work more on the Cajun and Creole recipe comics that I've been working on for a couple years. I'm hoping to get some really good ones out there. I mean, that's the heritage I grew up with, and I want to share that with the rest of the world in an accessible way that people can go to the grocery store and they know what they're looking for, and they can make a dish that's similar to what they could get down here, even if those are not necessarily the most common ingredients. I also want to finish the 7-inch Cara Volume 2 Kickstarter. I need to get the postcards printed up. I need to get the charms ordered. I need to work on the commissions, etc. I haven't forgotten, but we've been working on the book. I also want to create a polished pitch comic, because while self-publishing has its pros and cons, self-distributing is a pain in the booty, and I would love to work for a publisher with my work instead, and that would just allow me to focus more on making comics and less on all the other stuff. I also want to buy a house and move this year so that we can start a family, start a garden, have a studio space that we can decorate ourselves. On that note, I want to create a workspace that I love and can maintain. My workspace here in the rental is nice, but it's very small and you can't put anything up on the walls and it doesn't really have a whole lot of personality. And I would love a workspace that is functional and has personality. I also want to create more finished, polished illustrations that tell a story and can be included in my portfolio. That's something I love doing, but because I've been recording so much for YouTube, I haven't been doing that as much. So that's an area I'd like to refocus on. I also want to update my store. You know, I used to maintain my store, and online sales have never been a strong point for me. But after the Volume 2 Kickstarter, and with people showing a real interest in ordering just the postcards a la carte in addition to the book and not the rest of the package, or they'd like to order some charms, or they want to order a commission, it definitely makes me want to revamp my store. Right now, you can get Volume 1, Volume 2, and Lilliputian Living in the store, but I want to offer more Kara stuff and a more original character stuff, as well as my zines. Also, I want to promote my store more because I'm an artist, and for many artists, their online store is how they earn a lot of their income, especially if you don't have cons or shows. It also means people can support my work and receive something physical and tangible in return. The Patreon, I don't do mail-in physical rewards. I do a lot of, like, I give them free line arts, and I try to, when I create a class, I send them the class information, stuff like that. I do try to make it rewarding, but I'm not super great at remembering to send out physical things every month. So I try to make most of my rewards digital-based for the Patreon. But a store would allow people who enjoy my work and they want to print, or they want a bookmark, or they want copies of the book. It would allow them to be able to buy the physical things that they actually want. I also want to do more Louisiana-inspired illustrations, especially with Kara. I'm a Louisiana girl. Technically I was born in New Orleans in the hospital, but I am from Luling, Louisiana, and there's just not a lot of positive stuff set in Louisiana, and I want to make more positive stuff. I want people to see why I love this state and how beautiful this place can be. And when they come to visit, I want them to visit things not Bourbon Street. I want them to visit the wetlands, and I want them to visit Bayou Signet, and I want them to go fishing in the spillway. I want them to enjoy the natural beauty that Louisiana has to offer, as well as our very delicious food. And I want to do more seasonal illustrations, especially with Kara. I do a lot of spring stuff. I do a lot of summer stuff because I'm very inspired by flowers and floral illustrations, but I don't necessarily do a lot of winter or fall stuff, and I definitely don't do enough holiday stuff. And that's just fun. You know, growing up reading manga, my favorite mangaka would do those kind of like seasonal splash illustrations, and I always really liked them. But so I don't know why I don't do more of that. I just don't do more of that. And that's something that now that we're not traveling all the time, I can actually focus on doing. And I also want to focus more on doing crafts again, making things again, gardening, cooking, and learning how to cook more things. I mean, my mom and I made candied kumquats this week with kumquats that I picked from her little kumquat tree, and it was a really cool, fun experience. And I want to explore more like tangentially survival stuff, like, you know, gardening and pickling and canning your own food and drying things and preserving things. Not just, I mean, Kara, the comic, talks about that kind of stuff pretty frequently because Kara's mom preserves all of their own food and they grow things and they forage things. But because, I mean, I put those in the comic because I think those things are cool. And I want to learn how to do more of those things. And I want to go on like foraging treks, and I want to learn more about plant identification. I've mentioned this before, but my minor was Earth Environmental Science, and that's something I want to use Kara as a comic to explore, because not only is 7-inch Kara about power dynamics and friendship and family, it's also about loving nature and appreciating nature and existing in the world you were born in, and not just taking from it, but also just being part of it. So that was my 2020 goals, what I did to try and accomplish them, how COVID kind of threw a wrench in the plan, and how it also kind of shifted my worldview and shifted how I treat my channel. And it's also my 2021 resolutions. So I am going to do a vlog about the upcoming hiatus. Don't worry, I'm probably not stepping away forever or anything like that. And there will still be updates. I have postcard vlogs that I want to share with you guys. Those are a little bit older, but I think you'll enjoy them anyway. And I also have mechanical pencil reviews that I'd like to share with y'all, because I know some people are going back to school and are looking for good mechanical pencils. And you guys seem to like my mechanical pencil reviews. So January is going to be the time for the mechanical pencil reviews. But I definitely want to kind of rethink the projects that I share here, rethink how we interact, and I'd also like to just kind of find my voice and find who I am and be more myself. A few years ago, when I was really struggling with depression and I was doing YouTube, people commented that my reviews tended to be really negative and really bitter. And I think they probably were right about that. And I took that to heart and I worked on it. But I feel like I've worked on it so much that I sometimes don't have any personality at all. And I also know that since my videos appeal to younger artists, like much younger artists, sometimes it's hard for me to know how to talk to you guys, because we exist in the same world, but we also exist in very different worlds. And while there's stuff we have in common, there's also just a lot we don't. So I want to kind of figure out a way to better create things that you guys will enjoy and things that I enjoy creating, and ways that we can safely interact. And I think the live streams are the best way for us to interact. So anyway, it was definitely a doozy for all of us. I think it hit the artist community in a way that people just don't really talk about. When I lived in Nashville, they spent a lot of time talking about how this was going to affect musicians, music venues, and bars, but they didn't really spend much time talking about how it was going to affect anyone else. And it's pretty similar living here in Louisiana. But I can tell you guys, as a teaching artist who frequently works gigs, COVID and 2020 was a really hard year. I tried to find some ways to bring a little bit of light into the darkness and to bring a little bit of light into y'all's lives as well. I don't know how successful I was, only you guys know, and only you guys can tell me down in the comments how you feel my channel made you feel in 2020. But I enjoyed opening up to you guys, sharing my 2020 goals and my 2021 goals with y'all, as well as sharing how to render this illustration using alcohol markers and watercolor. So there's going to be a lot of big changes here on the channel, and I want to talk about that more in another vlog. So hopefully, if you're interested in that, you guys will keep an eye out for that. It should be up sometime in mid-January when I've had kind of a chance to recover from some of this burnout. So I hope you guys have a wonderful 2021. I hope it is so much better than 2020, and I hope you guys are able to have the things you need in your life to make you feel safe, secure, and happy in the upcoming year. And of course, I wish the same for myself as well. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day, a happy new year, and let's all hope that 2021 is better than 2020. All right, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this was helpful, useful, and inspiring, and I'd be interested in hearing what your goals for 2021 are. So you can let me know down in the comments below, or you can reach out to me on my Discord server, The Paint Box. You'll find a link in the description below, as well as all the materials that I used in this tutorial. So have a wonderful day, guys. Happy 2021. Bye.